Simon, at this point, we move on to a little segment we call the intermission.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's intermission time.
All right, Simon, you prepared for this one?
Sort of, yes. Okay, let's try.
I'm going to very quickly look up some presidents. Very, very quickly.
Well, I've got a little surprise for you.
Oh, really?
About 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, 2009, I wrote a piece for SBS Film called Hail to the Chief, Presidents on Screen, which I've just found. If you just Google SBS Presidents on Screen.
I'm not going to do that. I've already done the work.
Okay, you've done the work. Well, I'm just looking at what I wrote 10 years ago, and it is a huge article about films I'd forgotten I'd even seen. All right, yeah, let's do it.
Okay, here we go. This week has been a very big week for US politics, and the big question has been who will be the president of the United States. And the only way to really do that would be for it to be a actual composition, which means getting rid of old Joe. So old Joe's gone now. We've got younger Kamala. She's not young. She's, I believe, 60 years old, which isn't old either.
Officially,
it's firmly in the middle.
Yeah, not officially.
She's the presumptive nominee. It's fine. We can say that she's going to be it's fine. So anyway, her versus Trump. And so lots of people are talking about the president, and we're not going to step away from that. This is what people want to talk about. So we are going to take a deep dive into fictional TV and film presidents in the bipartisan spirit that elections are based on. Myself and Simon are both going to present a list of presidents. We're going to settle on 3 each, and we are going to try to convince the other one that our president is the one who should win our screen-watching presidential campaign.
Well, this could go all sorts of ways. From my sort of tree-hugging, pinky como lefty politics through to your gun-toting, ultra-right-wing, ultra-conservative politics. It's this could really go either way. So I'm all for taking on this fight. Yes. Oh my God! I guarantee you cut that out in the post. Let's have a listen to. All right, you lead us off with your first presidential nominee.
Okay, so look, the obvious thing to do, if we're talking TV and movies, and I'm the TV guy, I think I'm obligated to point out a little president named Josiah Jeb Bartlett from The West Wing, and I'm putting him out there because, frankly, he's a pretty good president.
He is a good president. He's a fine president.
He lied about the MS, okay? And in fairness, he shouldn't have done that. That wasn't cool. He deceived a lot of people. But he was still pretty good. You know, we'll look past it. Like, he's fine.
Are we going to just say, are we going to have a blanket Martin Sheen for president kind of stance here? Because he's also played JFK to some acclaim. That's
a good point.
He is a man who embodies that he's a hardcore lefty, but he has played presidents that have been had varying moral indiscrepancies and some flawed individuals. But Martin Sheen is the president for the screen. So maybe we should have a Martin moment.
Well, let's put him as Jeb Bartlett because I think that's his defining presidential role. So we'll put him as like a contender here.
All right.
But look, even I'm not sold on him necessarily being the best of the presidents either. But I just kind of feel we are obligated to have him as part of our list.
I think that's a great idea. Dan. All right, I'm going to weigh in with my first movie president. Gee, there's been some good ones. And there's been some
Wait a
bad
sec,
ones.
sorry. Are you just going to list 3 different people that played Nixon? Is that where we're going here?
Look, I am going to lead with Richard Nixon. I think there is a chance for his legacy to be redefined as America's next president, but I am not going to go with Anthony Hopkins' portrayal of the disgraced commander-in-chief from that film in the mid-90s. As good a film as that was, and I think that's one of Oliver Stone's really underrated films. It was very expensive to make, and it was a big bomb at the box office, but that shouldn't be what defines it as a terrific piece of storytelling. It was a terrific piece of storytelling. Now, I'm going to go with the wonderful actor Dan Hedaya's portrayal of Nixon in the movie Dick. In Dick,
yeah.
Featuring Kirsten Dunst and Michelle Williams as the two, I guess, Bill and Ted types, or Romeo and Michelle types, these young girls from the early 70s who decide to infiltrate the White House and influence the then President Richard W. Nixon in a way only two idealistic young women can. So it's a film that's very, very funny in parts. It features a hilarious moment where they mistakenly bake marijuana into cookies and give them to Richard Nixon, and I'll never forget laughing so hard at how Dan Hedaya plays this. I think Dan Hedaya's Nixon could be the Nixon that we all remember in years to come and forget about that whole Watergate thing. I mean, who remembers that anyway?
Yeah, I mean, the trouble is actually remembering that the movie Dick exists, which I think is definitely one of the stronger concerns with your, lifelong posterity.
It was. It found an audience on home video, but you're right, it didn't make a dent at the box office, unfortunately, because it features some very, very funny moments in it.
Yeah. Look, also, I don't know, you're definitely playing to my sympathies here because Dan Hedaya, one of my favorite character actors, whether that be him playing Carla's husband on Cheers or his appearance in a movie that we call The Concierge here in Australia, but overseas it's For Love or Money. That's where he's, Michael J. Fox is a concierge.
Cher's father in Clueless. He was great as Alicia Silverstone's dad in Clueless, one of my favorite Dan Hedaya performances.
Getting back to the concierge, Simon, because he's there. He's likes the tings on the pillow. The tings.
Oh, God. That's a movie that is a random reference. Not a lot of people remember The Concierge, but yeah, it was a very funny movie.
Yeah, but do people remember For Love or Money? That's the question. Simon
very
Foster.
Funny. Yes.
A couple of other presidents I'm just going to throw randomly into conversation. These aren't my picks, but let's talk about the recent 2024 film, The Civil War, with a very memorable president scene, particularly at the end of that movie. Probably best known as a resident of Pawnee, Indiana. I've always been fond of the performance of... I'm trying to think of the actual president's name. President white guy. Independence Day, played by Bill.
Bill Pullman, I can't remember the character name. But yes, he gave one of the most stirring performances, yes.
Stirring performance, stirring speech at the end, and also he got into a fighter plane and saved the world. Like, really, come on. That's a pretty big act for a TV movie president. Okay, I always
that was before the the Oval Office took on a real stink back then. That was a Clinton inspired president, when we all had this sort of idealistic sort of feeling about how much in love we were. Same with, and I was going to mention it, but I'll bring it up now, the Michael Douglas character in the movie where the American President, where he falls in love with Annette Bening. So that was very much a Clinton-inspired president that I don't know how well that would play today.
Well, then, shall I scratch that off my list as the next president I was going to mention? Could I drop in E.G. Marshall as the president from Superman 2?
Wow, gee, that's a reference. E.G. Marshall is a great character actor and was certainly fine as the president. But yeah, that's a bit out of left field. I wasn't expecting that one.
Yeah. Anyway, the character I was actually going to drop in, I wasn't going to do two Sorkin presidents. That's crazy talk. Can I take you to one of my favorite films? And this fits very much into what you were just talking about then, as this sort of Clinton era president. We're going to talk about the Mike Nichols movie Primary Colors, which had John Travolta playing a Bill Clinton analog of sorts. I just love that movie. I think that it speaks so much to the idea of honor, the idea of the integrity of the office of the president, and sometimes you just have to hold your nose and go for it.
Yeah, that is a terrific film. One of Mike Nichols getting near the end of his career, and he every bit as witty and as cutting and as scathing as the comedy of Mike Nichols has always been, and it was a great film. It had a great performance by Travolta as well, who put on a lot of weight, opposite Emma Thompson, if I remember correctly, as his wife. Yeah, and a great support cast as well as his Hillary. Yeah. Okay, well, sorry, I'm going to weigh in with...
Wait. You said the support cast, but also it's worth noting that the role played by John Travolta and the Hillary analog, they're supporting characters in the movie. The main character is Henry Burton, the Adrian Lester character.
Of course, yes, Adrian Lester. Boy, he was another good actor. Whatever happened to him?
He went on to be in Spooks in the UK for many, many, many seasons. He's been a very successful actor since, just not in Hollywood.
I'm going to weigh in with a film directed by the great Roger Donaldson, one of the great journeyman directors of the last half century. He made a film in 2000. It's a Costner film, but Costner's not playing the president. The president, John F. Kennedy, is played by a terrific Bruce Greenwood, and it looks at the Cuban Missile Crisis in the 13 days when the world was on tenterhooks as to who would push the button first. And Bruce Greenwood does this great JFK voice work, uttering the memorable line, "I'm commander-in-chief and I decide when we go to war," which is something I love quoting. It's wonderful the way it rolls off his tongue. And also a terrific performance by an actor, Stephen Culp, as the brother Bobby in this. So you got both the Kennedy clan alpha males being portrayed, whereas Costner is, I can't remember his exact role, but he's like chief of staff or he's one of the advisors to the president, and he's right in the midst of the Cuban Missile Crisis drama. So it's a terrific film, 13 days, if you can get hold of it and check it out.
Okay, so I've got my last entry to put in here, and look, there's presidents I want to mention. I want to mention President James Dale, as played by Jack Nicholson. I very much want to talk about a certain president played by Harrison Ford called President James something or other. What was his surname? I can't remember. I don't think it ever mattered. But anyway, he uttered the phrase, "Get off my plane."
Get off my plane.
But if we are going to talk about the greatest cinema president, we can only go to one fellow, President Dave, in the movie Dave, as played by Kevin Kline.
Great answer. Great answer.
Yeah. Can you go past that? I'd like to see you beat that one, Simon. You can't. It's impossible.
Well, I was going to get all serious and weigh in with, I guess, Daniel Day-Lewis's Lincoln. That wasn't a bad acting performance, and certainly a fine president.
What did Lincoln ever do? What did Lincoln ever do? Come on.
What have you done? What did Lincoln ever do for us?
What's he done lately? There's the question.
Nick Nolte played Thomas Jefferson, in a movie called Jefferson in Paris, which not only hinted but stated quite openly that he had a love affair with one of his servant girls, I guess you could say, his slave, played by Tandy Newton. He was a man who liked them young, is in the words of Nick Nolte. I'm really just going to weigh in with one off the top of my head. Let's say, how can I? Hang on, you can cut this out, please, because I'm trying to go through the list.
I know where this is going, Simon. I know where this is going. You want to talk about Michael Keaton playing the president in the movie First Daughter, opposite Katie Holmes?
Oh wow, you've really done some Google searching here. That is a random reference. Yes, he's terrific in that part. That is for sure.
Okay, have I bought you enough time?
No, I'm going up and down the list here.
Okay, Simon, we're bringing this to an end. You're just cheating now. Okay,
I am just cheating.
Look, so who are our fighters here? Okay, we're putting into the ring. We've got Jeb Bartlett.
We've got Richard Nixon.
We've got President Dave.
We've got the guy from Independence Day.
No, I don't think we put him in there. I think we put in instead the president from Primer Colors.
Right. Oh, okay. Yes, that's a good idea. Whose name I can't remember.
Okay. So look, if we can't remember his name, he's probably ruled out.
Oh.
Okay. President Independence Day is ruled out as well.
The only one I am going to throw in at the last minute is Donald Pleasance from Escape from New York.
Come on. Okay, now, Simon, that we've edited the podcast, we can take care of that phone call that you received.
It was
Who we got here as our final president? You tried to make a case for Donald Pleasance in Escape from New York, but I'm going to say no, especially considering the sequel has a much better president.
Sure, yeah, that's very true. What about if we weigh in with the real-life George W. Bush from Fahrenheit 9/11, the Michael Moore film, which was very entertaining and showed what a buffoon he really was. And if ever we need a buffoon in the White House just to lighten things up a bit, it's now. So there you go. I'm going to put forward the real-life George W. Bush as my final final candidate.
Before you lock that in, if I give your wife a call and say, hey, look, Simon was just making a case on a podcast for America's greatest president on screen being George W. Bush, should I edit the podcast to save him, some personal face?
First of all, she's going to say, I bet he's reading from that thing he wrote 10 years ago that he never stops talking about, which is true. If you go to SBS Film, you'll see my story, Presidents on Screen. And yes, I am reading from that. And I stand by both Donald Pleasance and George W. Bush. The Oval Office right now is an absolute shit show. And if ever anyone can bring it back to some kind of normalcy, it is the buffoonish innocence of that nutcase W. Bush or Donald Pleasance from. So I'm going to stick with that. And let the people decide. It's a democracy, Dan. It should be the people that decide.
In the spirit of democracy, I think we can bring the segment to an end and say that we all agree that it was President Dave from the movie Dave. He is, of course, America's greatest film and TV president. Folks, this has been a Screen Watching Intermission. We're going to move on now to a little segment called What Else Have You Been Watching?